Failure is temporary, but if you quit, that's permanent. Eventually, you just got to a point where it's like, this isn't going to work. I had to make the decision to declare bankruptcy. A lot would jump in from being the artist to the owner with no training. There's an art to negotiation that can save you lots of money down the road.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Tokushikai Inside Look podcast. Today we're speaking with Master Emerson Wong from Toronto, Canada. Master Wong is the founder and CEO of Pulse Martial Arts Academy, a Taekwondo school combining traditional and modern movement to create a generation of high-performance athletes to excel in competition, life, and on the stage. Master Wong was a graduate of Ryerson's Information Technology program and Computer Science and Engineering. Combining his love of interior design and new media has allowed him to craft high-tech, one-of-a-kind martial arts schools that are some of the most beautiful in Canada. Today, we'll be talking about his experience as a small business owner in this time of COVID-19 and how Master Wong is approaching this crisis with grit and optimism. So please enjoy this episode.
My name is Master Emerson Wong. I've been doing martial arts for about 20 odd years now. I actually started Taekwondo as my first martial art, and it's funny that people thought I started really very young as a kid, and that was my passion. I watched a lot of martial arts, kung fu movies and stuff like that. I wanted to do martial arts. However, my parents were very strict and I figured martial arts was not the kind of path they wanted me to take, with maybe do piano and all that sort of stuff, which I quite hated. And so I had that passion for wanting to do martial arts for a very long time. It was only until when I was 17 that they allowed me to take my first class. Even before that, I was watching these Jet Li movies, punching my pillows on the couch, breaking stuff in my room. I was just kind of practicing on my own. And my parents just didn't allow me. I asked them for almost 10 years. And then finally, after a lot of begging, I'm 17 now, can I take martial arts classes? And they finally said, okay, you know what, we'll support it. We'll let you go and pick a place. And that's how it started. I started when I was 17 years old, and I kept that passion going. I ended up doing Taekwondo as my main discipline. And here I am now with 3 schools and 1 school in Haiti. So 3 schools here in Toronto, and I have 1 in Haiti. So I have a total of 4 schools at the moment.
Okay. What did you go to Ryerson for? What was your...
It was originally for electrical engineering and computer engineering afterwards. I specialized in that, and I ended up dropping that to go into infotech. So that's why I ended up finishing off as information technology, which made a little more sense for what I wanted to do. I was much of a geek when I was a kid, but I think the business side of technology was a little bit more of what I wanted to go down to, and kind of plays a much bigger role now for what I'm doing now.
And where did you go after you graduated?
So I ended up going into an IT company, doing some search engine optimization work. I did it for a couple of months, but I didn't fully go into the workforce heavily. I kind of spent more time afterwards with that break in time to focus a little bit more on my film work, stunts, and that sort of thing. So I didn't really work for a company much. I just kind of dabbled here and there in small things, but I was more the entrepreneur, focusing on my film stuff, focusing on my passion, which is the martial arts, the stunts, and that became more of my career than anything. I used my education to help with developing that.
How did you get into the film and stunt industry?
I got into that, I guess it was sort of during the time I was still in university. I was watching videos on the internet, and I saw this guy flipping around. His name was Joe Ego. He became quite famous on the internet, and I ended up going to the same gym as him to train, in the gymnastics gym to train with him. And I found out that he knew somebody who was in the film and television business. And that's how I went to Black Belt World, which is the school my mentor ran. And that's where my friend Joe Ego is also being mentored by the same guy who's helping him through film. He actually helped him get him to the Jackie Chan stunt team. So that was kind of how I got connected to him. And that was kind of my springboard into the film industry.
Mm. You mentioned your parents, and you mentioned this other mentor. Where were they around that university time, and then the film and stunt stuff and the job stuff? How were they still involved in
my
your
parents
decision-making?
are a huge part of supporting everything I've done. I've always been really close with my parents. So throughout my entire journey, through university, after university, because I was kind of a starving artist, try to chase after these dreams and while still trying to go. I struggled for a long time to try to get anywhere with the film business before I got any regular work. It was difficult. I stayed at home for a very long time and trying to stay in that industry for as long as possible to try to make myself something out of that, right? So my parents are still a very integral part of everything I'm doing now because they help at the school now. They have a lot more involvement, helping cleaning school, helping management of the finances, any small things you're driving the kids to school, with the school buses I have. They're very much a part of my business now more than ever. I can say they've been helping me since day one, from everything from getting me into school and everything to now. Yeah, I can say that they helped me a lot for all of this. Once they saw, even though I was in university, I was still focusing on this stuff. It wasn't going to go away. Like martial arts was my thing. I was even at that time building websites and have my own blog and everything. At that point, when I was also starting to become a little bit more of a rebellious adult at the time, because as I started doing performances with my team, I had a martial arts team and traveling a lot with them. It just like they knew that my passion, what I wanted to do was not in engineering. It wasn't in computer science. So I guess as they saw some progress of what I was doing, getting some fame in the world from doing just traveling martial arts stuff, Team Ryuko got hundreds of millions of views at the time when YouTube wasn't even around yet. We were breaking the internet and stuff. We were definitely doing something different. There was something there. But we weren't making a lot of money though, but it was something there, and I guess they helped believe in the passion I had and help fuel that. It took a long time for them to see what it became, but the great thing is that I can always say that my parents supported me and they never doubted me. But there are times where I've had failures. I've had many failures throughout my journey, and they were there to help me cover them up and give me another chance kind of thing. So I would say I'm fortunate for that, because sometimes when you fall, you're not able to get back up again, and it takes a longer time to recover. But my parents have been very critical in helping me get back on my feet and keep on going.
Tell me about the very first major failure you had.
So, of course, all of this, like with the university debt, traveling all the time, and doing these performances with my team. And yeah, we weren't making much money. We were making a couple $100 for a performance that we spent maybe weeks preparing, right? It was more about building it up, building the name, and just loving what we're doing. And again, like, we were starving artists. We weren't making much money. I was incurring way more debt than I was making money for it, but I wasn't willing to give up what I was doing and what I love to do to just suddenly, try to do a 9-to-5 job and say, that's that, right? It's either one or the other, right? So it was for many years that was keeping this going, and of course it was like one credit card after another credit card, and moving that debt to another credit card, and just keeping that going for as long as possible. And eventually, you just got to a point where it's like, this isn't going to work, right? I was getting calls from my creditors all the time, and eventually, I had to make the decision to declare bankruptcy, and that was a moment for myself in like 2009, 2010, around there, and that's when I kind of try to reset my life a little bit, try to decide what I wanted to do. So during that time, I actually went to Hong Kong to kind of chase that dream of being a Hong Kong action star kind of thing. So you know what? I wasn't allowed to make any money during this bankruptcy period. So I just kind of went to Hong Kong on a couple $1,000 and just try to make something out of that. And I met some people. I met some famous people in Hong Kong. I even got offered a job to work with Sammo Hung on a movie. Oh, and wow. I actually respectfully turned that down after a lot of consideration, because they won't pay you much and we'll own you for 5 years. And fortunately, I didn't take it. So I think I made the right decision. Mm-hmm. And having multiple schools and having some name for myself, influencing a lot of people in my industry, I think I made the right choice. And I haven't regretted that decision. But at least I could tick off that box. At least I tried, right? I tried that. And that was the right moment for me to approach that. And then when I realized that wasn't going to work, I flew back to Toronto, worked on Pacific Rim, which is my big break, and I ended up working stunts on an entire film, which provided me the financing to open my first school. So that's how it all started.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, walk me through that decision of going from being a worker in the industry to starting your own school. You went to Hong Kong to pursue that. You came back, you did that Pacific Rim thing. That could have been a break to a long career in doing stunt work. Why did you decide to start a martial arts school? It
was with the advice and recommendation from my master, which my mentor who got me into the film business, who got me that role. He says that, film and stunts, it's very on-off thing. It's never guaranteed. So you need some stability in your life. And what better way than to own a martial arts school where you have consistent income? And at the time, he had a few schools. He was making quite a bit of money. So he showed me what the possibility was when having a financial freedom. Now that you have the money from this film, you need to create some stability and financial stability in your life. So it made sense at that point with the advice from my mentor to start a school. I started a branch under him, and that's how I started with that martial arts school and journey. So I started with that for a couple of years, but as I started getting better at it, I started seeing how I would like to run my business a certain way. I felt quite limited within that franchise and within that business model in order to kind of realize the vision that I want to have. Because I have so many things in my mind, how I want to do things. And now that I was able to go on my own, things changed quite quickly for me because I saw what I wanted. And I knew that if I stayed within his organization, it wouldn't have worked or be able to realize what I wanted. So here I am now, a couple of years later, and like I say, I'm growing quite quickly, and I've grown quite a following of my journey. So.
Yeah. What were the main risks that you had to consider when you went off on your own, and how did you work your way through those?
I think that the main risk, because I've already understood a little bit about how to negotiate leases and my first school, so all those big things, understanding policies, understanding all the little nuts and bolts about running a martial arts business, I kind of learned that from my first one. I think when I went off my own is I had to be sure that there's nothing major that I didn't leave out that could possibly sink me. So weighing it all out, what I wanted to achieve, the way I wanted to run business, from my education at Ryerson, I felt like I had enough knowledge to say, you know what, I had my stepping stone, but I want to go from here to here. And I know I'm not able to do that within the limits I have with this organization. So I thought if I were to move out of that, do my own thing, because I'm resourceful, I know how to research, I know how to find solutions to problems. I didn't think there was anything that would be significant enough that I wouldn't be able to figure out at that point. So I had my first help to get into it already. And there were definitely challenges along the way, and there were definitely challenges that were very costly as well too. But as long as you learn from your mistakes, you're able to pay for those mistakes. They're certainly going to save you down the road, especially when something like this happens. You have a pandemic now, and the ultimate test of your experience and knowledge is going to see whether that's enough to help get you out of this. And for me, it was certainly a shock. But with all the things that have happened, with the challenges I've had along the way, and many of those challenges along the way were potentially career-ending for me. So it definitely kept me to have the foresight to see where this was headed, what I need to do, and how to stay calm through it, because I've been through this kind of stuff quite enough times. Of course, it's the first time you're going to freak out, like, I don't know what to do. But fortunately, there's a lot of people who have the experience, and that's why myself and other people put themselves out there to show that, this is what you need to do. Stay calm, do this, and give advice to those who don't have that same experience and help them through that. So, but when I wrote that post, I got a lot of great comment, and people come to me privately and say, you know what, that's very brave of what you did to show how you handle it, what you have to sacrifice for it, because a lot of people might think that you're invincible, right? That you have the answers to everything. And as someone who's been an influencer for a long time in the industry, I say, no, I'm not invincible. So yes, you can fail, but failure is not the end all of everything. Failure is temporary, but if you quit, that's permanent, right? So if you fail and get back up, if you fail and you learn from it, you can still move from that. But if you say, look, it's over, I can't do it, you quit, and that's it. It's finished. And it's sad to see a lot of brands, a lot of other martial arts studios who are like legacy, like 30 years, 40 years, right? And then this was the end moment for them. And they might have had the tradition, they have the art, they have the people, and they just kept it a certain way for 30, 40 years without having a significant amount of money in the bank from all that time of having that business, for however they ran it. It was about the art. But unfortunately, the business end of things is important as well too. And when something like this happens where they are not able to overcome financially and the way the business is run, then 30, 40 years, no matter how long it's been, this was the event that ended the whole thing. Meanwhile, some people like myself have only been around for 8, 10 years, they haven't been around for that long. But yeah, like, if you understand business, if you understand finance, if you understand how to pivot and change things, understand what government support you have, and just be creative with how you solve problems, then you can quickly pivot and navigate yourself out of this whole thing, because you can see the whole thing from beginning to end. I'm here, this is what's going on, and I need to get here, and I need to be this strong at this point in order to rebound. I plan everything up to the end of this year so I can be strong enough to then recover and continue to grow again. That's how you got to do it. Right? Otherwise, you just put your hands up in the air and you're like, I don't know. I got bills to pay, landlord's coming after me, you're just freaking out and you have no solution. So what do? You pull the plug.
Yeah, that's a great example for others to follow, because you can't just take this event and say, oh no, you have to just get to work. And that's what it sounds like you did. You just got to work. So maybe you can explain about that process. Like, what was the first thing that you did? How did you start thinking about planning this future? Who did you talk to?
I think the key thing is you got to look at any major company that either sticking through it or they decide to call it quits. How many major brands like J. Crew, and you have Cirque du Soleil, all these major brands you just never expect, but it took a moment like this to uncover what was actually going on in that company. But yeah, you have Pier 1 Imports with 600 stores, and then there's closing Canada and US wide. Like, these are just major closings that it all comes down to numbers, financials, right? That's how every successful business person looks at things, and investors look at things. They look at the numbers. So if the numbers don't make sense, then you got to do something to make the numbers look better. If your burn rate is significantly high and you can't control that burn rate, then you're eventually going to get to a point where you lose everything, right? So what you have to do is you got to reduce that burn rate. Look at Air Canada. Look at all these other major airlines just completely laying off tons of people, stopping services so they can save that cash to get through this crisis, so that when the economy starts to recover, then you have that cash to then rebuild, right? So the same thing for myself. Like, I had major rents in different locations, and I'm paying them probably about $30-something thousand a month. When you're receiving, 80% less in income, whatever, right? It's like, you gotta say, well, this is how much I'm losing every single month right now. I still gotta have staff. I still gotta have these expenses going out. This is my burn rate every single month, and you do a financial impact. If I go 1 month like this, 2 months like this, I did a 6-month financial impact. I say, okay, what if I tell my landlord I'll pay 50% rent? Or what if I try to pay 75% rent? What if I tell my staff, okay, I'll lay off half my staff? I did all scenario 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and looked at the spreadsheet. This goes for 6 months. This goes for 3 months. This goes for 1 year, whatever, right? Then you can see, can I afford this? Can I afford to lose this? If I reduce my staff by half, then that means my loss will only be this. You guys see how much money is in the bank, what kind of loans and what kind of stimulus programs. So 1 year from now, what's my bank account look like? 1 year from now, will I have the ability, will I be in a debt position that's so strong that I cannot recover from? If that's the case, then that means what I do. I need to drop 1 school, I need to drop 2 schools, so I need to drop half my staff, or whatever I need to do, so that position is not a career-ending or organizational ending moment, right? So it all comes down to the dollars and cents to see, do I shut down my schools for 2 years? Some people have done that. Some people have suggested maybe that's a better thing to do, because, if you don't have enough students where you can retain a bunch of students to keep that income going and temporarily move your school to somewhere else, then you might be in a position where your income is so low, but your expenses are so high. If this thing lasts, what it looks like now, for me, I'm planning for 12 months at the minimum before the industry recovers, then you're better off just shutting it all down. You don't have a lot of students. Shut it all down. Maybe do some online training here and there to keep contact with them, and reopen your business a year and a half from now, 2 years from now, where the rents will be cheaper. You have much more opportunity to find it and negotiate a better lease. You're not burning your money for 2 years and being stuck to a lease. By the time 2 years passes, you're gonna be stuck with $250,000 in debt. How do you recover from that 2 years on the road? Or don't eat that debt, call it quits, take that sunk cost of whatever you put in, just leave it at that and say, you know what, that it's better to shut that all down and then keep whatever little bit of income maybe doing on the side, maybe doing a community center, doing a gym, whatever, get some of that money back to pay that off. Then 2 years later, start fresh, brand new again with a brand new lease. Start a little small, don't put as much money into renovations, slowly build back up again, but you're in a better financial position 2 years later, starting again, than trying to hold on while that bucket's leaking very, very fast. You'll end up with nothing 2 years later on trying to start again, and you'll be in a more damaged mental state starting at that point in time. It'll be difficult. You've seen that little bit of income coming in, doing very little to that debt you've accumulated over 2 years. Psychologically, mentally, that does a lot. So I take all that into account, and show them kind of bigger picture. And they're like, okay, well, would you rather have this or this? Yeah, this makes a lot more sense. Okay, let's do it. Let's just close it down. Let's do that. It makes it easier to decide when you can see it that way. Otherwise, just like, oh, I could do this, I could do that, and without having any numbers, and you just kind of like just whatever your heart feels. And sometimes following what your heart feels is not correct, it's not the right thing to do. For myself, I had 2 locations. One is my Scarborough location, one's my Ajax. My Scarborough was only 2 years old. I spent over $100,000 renovating that place. And then that was like my flagship headquarters. My Ajax location, we opened that less than a year ago. We put over $100,000 into renovation of that location. Brand new, it's $250,000 we just walked away from. For somebody who loves design and I put all the effort to painting and doing all these little fine details, it's like that was my ship. That was what I built and I loved so much. But I refused to go down with the ship. That was everything. That was my dream school. But I knew if I stayed there and I sink with the ship, then that's it. I can't come back. That would be it. But if I decide to jump ship, as much as I love the place, but I can't let my heart tell me what to do, I got to look at the numbers. So I said, you know what? I got to jump ship, wait, play it safe, and survive. And then when I come back with a fleet of new ships. That's the way I thought of it instead, right? To try to turn it around the other way. Because you know what? I'm going to plan for a massive comeback rather than, trying to keep that ship going for as long as possible and going down with the whole thing. Learn how to walk away from a fight that you cannot win, a war you can't win, right? Recognize that. And then you come back and fight the war again.
I want to ask you about your decision in staying with the school, because in the past you've switched careers in different ways and you've pursued different things. Did you consider dropping this and then see where life takes you in another direction? Or did you have some commitment to saying, I started this now, I want to see where I can go with it?
Okay, I am actually kind of doing that right now. I've been wanting to get into film production for a while, film producing. So I went from stunts. I feel like what's the next step from stunts for me? I thought it's the business of film. So as much as I'm good at doing business, I thought business of film would make the most sense to be the next transition for me. So I kind of dabbled in that a little bit last year and started to kind of take it a little bit more seriously. But then with this whole COVID thing happening, I'm kind of putting my schools in a position where I need to focus on that now. But I knew that if I focus on my schools right now and just fully focus on that, and then the producer would take a pause for a bit, but time is money. And if I spend a year recovering from the schools and push my producing for a year, then whatever potential I would have in the film business is now pushed off by a year. I didn't want that to happen either, because I knew the potential I could have in that, and I didn't want to give that up either. So I had to decide what to do, how to do both. I knew that the whole school situation was a survival game for me for the next 12 months. So I'm not expecting to really make a lot of money. If I make money even during this time, that's gravy, right? But for most people, it's survival. You can't let that fall. So I had to figure out how do I do both so that I can go over to the film side and continue to work there to get financial benefit from that side, because that'll help my schools as well too. So what I ended up doing was using this time as a bit of a pause to rethink my strategy for the schools. We had to restructure our organization so that we can maintain what we have with less staff, more efficient staff, because we can't have the same amount of staff. We can't do what we did before. We had a lot of inefficiencies. That's time to reevaluate everything we do and how do we do it with less so that we can still maintain for the time being, and they're able to do it with little intervention from my part. So a better direction on how everything is done, who's responsible for this, who's responsible for that, who's accountable for who. So that way when this is survival state, I'm not actively involved as much because they know what to do already. So I can focus on this other end. So that way, both are happening at the same time. So instead of choosing one or the other, I decided to do both. But I managed how I could make that happen.
Yeah, that's super interesting. As an owner, as someone that's used to running all this stuff, how do you take a step back and how do you help other people maintain performance while you do take that step back? What were the things that kind of went along in creating that system?
I think is to make sure that your organization is set up properly from the top down. There needs to be somebody who's responsible and accountable for a certain amount of people. And that's why most things are like you have one person who's responsible for these two people and these two people responsible for these bunch of people. You need to have that kind of hierarchy in your organization. Before it was a little bit more about it was me and about everybody else. It all comes to me. And it was a lot of work. It wasn't very efficient. But it was hard to change that when everything was in motion. But now that everything's kind of stopped, it allowed me to rearrange the pieces. And then when we restart again, the organization runs with this new structure. So I think that was important. And I knew that change had to happen, but this gave me the chance to quickly establish that because nothing's happening right now. So that when we resume, I say, hey, everybody, now this is the new structure. Now you have to do this stuff, and you're accountable for this person. And those people feel a sense of importance in their role now because they have some responsibility to somebody. They feel like, hey, now this is my thing. This I get to do this, and they feel like they have some effect to the organization. Because before everyone was just working to do a thing, they didn't really amount to it as much. Just like I'm just working, and no one's really watching over me, kind of like that. Now it's different. There's some checks and balances here, and when someone doesn't get something done, they know this is their boundaries of what their work is. It falls under somebody's accountability list, right? And that way, it's like, hey, you want to move from this level to the next level, then make sure you can do this well, and you move to this level. So that was important. Having multiple levels of hierarchy is important, and people staying in the line that they're in. Just before, it was a very flat organization. It was just everybody and me, and that made it difficult to be able to do other things. So I was very busy doing a lot of things that I didn't really need to do, and that's why I created a lot of inefficiency, right? So this way, I can remove myself out of the picture a little more because I now have an executive team that is now in between me and everybody else. And that's why I can now pursue both. Being able to do more, having now less on my plate.
Yeah, it's actually quite genius to do it at this time when everyone feels the loss of control due to this virus, and yet you're empowering your people to take ownership in something that they can now control, and they can feel like, okay, this isn't just a bad thing that's happening to me. I'm doing something more meaningful than I was before. That's a great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So far in our discussion, there's this theme with you going on that's always constantly moving towards a little more agency, a little more control of your own destiny. One thing that I'm hearing is that this business background, this understanding of money is so important to you being able to take control. And typically in the martial arts world, most people, practitioners, especially instructors, don't have this kind of knowledge, don't have this skill set. So what would you say about?
Yeah. I do believe that's why there's a lot of people who need that coaching, that mentorship from people who are able to help them on that side of things. I would say like a martial artist, as like a dancer, or people who are artists that when they start feeling like I need to make enough money, and it's like, well, what's the next step? Is I need to be the instructor, I need to be the owner, but there's no course on how to become that other person. Because when you think like an instructor, you don't think like a business owner, and that's what people have business to be. People go take business class to learn what it takes to be good at business, the numbers, all those sort of stuff, right? So a lot of people jump in from being the artist to the owner with no training. They just sign a lease. There's an art to negotiation that can save you lots of money down the road. Like having a lawyer looking at a contract versus looking at yourself and thinking, okay, it looks good. And then you sign it and they're like, oh, COVID-19 happens. Like, oh, I need to get on my lease. Sorry, you can't, right? Like all these things are important. But if you don't have anybody or have that knowledge, then it's important to have a mentor. Somebody you can ask questions to who've been through all that already. They'll save you all that trouble, right? So I feel like as I start thinking about in the future about franchising, that's what I would provide to a lot of business owners who want to start a school in the future, or may feel like they've been kind of damaged by the way things have been right now and feel like they want to come back. They may decide to say, hey, we'll come under the franchise. We need your guidance, we need your support. I think things like that would be very, very important to being a successful school owner if you lack those skills. Mm-hmm. Those are a lot of things, like learn how to manage money, learn how to negotiate, learning relationships with parents, how to manage your staff. That's another skill in itself, right? You're never born knowing how to manage a team of people, right? So these are things that were important to me. But I have had mentors along the way, and my first one being Master Tommy Chang, who helped me get to my first school. So I learned a lot from him, but I picked up other mentors along the way. And even still myself, like, I might have answered a lot of stuff. If I don't, I have plenty of people I can ask who are very successful, much more successful than I am. I can just ask them, and they will just give me the answer to it. And it adds to my knowledge base. But I have a network of people that know as well.
Thank you so much for taking the time and answering all these questions. I'm super excited to see where you go next, because there's always something to motivate the rest of us. Thank you so much.
Sure. My pleasure. No problem, Patrick. All right.
Thanks so much.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see you. All right. Bye. Thanks.
Bye. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode, because we have a lot more exciting interviews and resources to help you explore the world of martial arts. To get the latest on what we're up to at Tokushikai Canada, subscribe to our newsletter at subscribe.tokushikai.ca and find us on Facebook and Instagram at tokushikai.canada. Until next time, thanks for listening.